So here I've created an inbox assistant just using n8n. And basically what this thing does is runs your entire email inbox for you. So it categorizes emails, it takes actions based off certain emails. I'm gonna walk through the entire automation today and show you exactly how this works. And the best part is that you can either use this automation yourself or you can sell it to business owners who get over 100 emails a day, people that just get flooded with emails and would love to have an assistant like this to help them sort through the emails. So that being said, let's get started. I'm going to start by just walking through how this automation works, and then I'm going to show you exactly how you can create it yourself. So to start off, we have a Gmail trigger, and this is going to trigger once we receive an email into our inbox. So that is what starts this entire automation. From there, we run it through a text classifier, and this is going to add a label to the email. So I have 3 labels set up. I have client, lead, and meeting. So if I get an email from a client, a lead, or if I have a new meeting request, this is how the emails are going to get categorized. In the text classifier, it's just going to use an OpenAI chat model to determine what the email actually says so it can properly categorize that email. And you might be wondering, what if you get an email that does not fall into one of these 3 categories? It's simple. It's simply going to not run it through the automation, and it's just going to let it sit in your inbox. So pretty straightforward so far. Once again, the automation is going to trigger once we receive an email. ChatGPT, this model right here, is going to decide what label we're going to put on that email. Now, once an email has a label from the text classifier, it's going to go into one of these 3 automations, okay? So I'm going to walk through each one real quick. For the client, if an email is labeled a client email, it's going to go ahead and draft a message back to that client for me. It's going to understand what the client is messaging about or asking about, and it's going to go ahead, create that draft, and then send me a Telegram alert when that draft is created. So this is almost instant. By the time I receive an email from a client in my inbox, it's going to have a draft ready to go in just about 10 seconds, and I'm going to go ahead and get an automatic alert to my Telegram, letting me know that the draft is ready. So that's what the client automation looks like. After that is the lead automation. This one's pretty straightforward. All it does here is it goes ahead and adds that label as a lead to that email, and then it's going to alert me on Telegram that I have a new lead. And then lastly, for the meeting, it's going to do something similar. It's going to go ahead, once again, add the label for the meeting, and then it's going to use ChatGPT to create a summary of what the meeting is about. So it's going to let me know on Telegram who's requesting a meeting and at what time they want the meeting. Okay, so these are the 3 automations we have set up. Once again, endless possibilities. You can add as many labels and automations as you want, but for most business owners, these 3 automations here, these 3 labels, are probably going to be something that they are interested in. And so now I'm going to go ahead and walk through how you can create this automation yourself. So you can either use this automation yourself in your inbox, or you can go ahead and sell it to other business owners. So starting off, like I said at the beginning, we start with a Gmail trigger. So once I receive an email to my inbox, which is this one right here, you can see I've been testing this, so I do have some emails I've sent myself. So once I receive an email, this is going to go ahead and trigger. To add this trigger to your automation workflow, just go over here to the top right, click that plus button and just search Gmail. From Gmail, you're going to go ahead and click on it. Go to the very bottom to where it says triggers, and then add the one that says on message received. And this is going to be that trigger that I have set up currently. You're just going to go ahead and connect it to your Gmail account, set it as every minute, and then go ahead for the event, do message received, because once we receive a message, it's going to go ahead and trigger this node. And from there, we're going to go ahead and add a text classifier. Let me delete this node real quick. And to add the text classifier, just go up here, look up text classifier, and you're going to see it right here. Now, once you add it to your workspace, go ahead and connect it to the Gmail trigger. And this is fairly simple, but I'm going to walk through it just to make sure you understand exactly how it works. So the first thing we have is text to classify. So this is just saying, where are we getting the text from that we need to add these labels to, these 3 labels right here. And that's simply from the email that we received. And so that is going to be this code right here, json.snippet. And you can either type this in yourself, or you can drag and drop. You can see here on the left, if I have schema open, you can find snippet right here, and you can drag and drop it right there, okay? Now, if you don't see this in your input, this is simply because your automation has not ran yet. And so you can go ahead and test this workflow and send yourself an email. And once you do that, you're going to have all this information available. And then you can go ahead and add the snippet to the text to classify box. And you can see here, it says, hey Carson, can you have a call at 9 a.m. on Tuesday? And that's because the most recent message I received was that exact message, okay? So that's where it's getting that from. Next, you're going to set up your categories. And these are going to be the labels that you want to add to the emails. So in this automation, like I showed you, I have client, lead, and meeting. So in each description, I explain what this automation needs to look for in emails in order to identify which label it's going to add to it. So you want to make sure that these descriptions are very clear about what you're looking for because you don't want an email to have the wrong label. So for example, in my client category, it says emails from an existing or current client. These messages often involve requests for updates on a project, ongoing communication about working together or feedback, and questions or clarification about current services. And then I also say do not include people asking about services for the first time because those are leads. And then if I go to the description for my lead category, you're going to see that it says emails from a potential new client or customer. It typically includes someone asking about services, pricing, or booking a call, requesting information about working together, responding to a marketing outreach, or filling out a contact form, or replying to a cold email. And then once again, I say what not to include because this is also important. I say do not include current clients asking for updates. Those go under client, okay? And then lastly, for the meeting category description, I have it set as emails related to new meeting requests. This does not include replies or follow-ups to existing meeting conversations. Because when I get an alert from this automation for a new meeting, I want to make sure that it is in fact a new meeting and not just us going back and forth about what time works best. Because when I get a Telegram alert for a new meeting, I do want to make sure that it is in fact a new meeting and that we haven't talked about this meeting before. And so those are the 3 categories that I set up. And feel free to add more categories or change these categories. Just know for each category, you do have the option to create an automation for it entirely separate from the other categories that you have set up. Now, the last thing we want to do in the text classifier node is go down here to where it says options, and when no clear match, we're going to go ahead and discard the item. This just means that when an email is received and the automation doesn't know which label to add to it, it's just going to ignore it because we don't want the wrong label being added to an email. And so that's it for the text classifier node. Just make sure that you add a model to it. And so I'm just using, like I said, ChatGPT 4o mini because it works very fast and is reliable in my opinion. Now this is where it gets fun. This is where we're going to add an automation for each category that we created. And so like I showed you, I have one created for each category, which is client, lead, and meeting. And so the first thing we do to all 3 of these categories is we make sure to add the correct label to it. And so to do this, we're going to go ahead and add a Gmail node. And then it's going to be this option right here that says add label to message. And go ahead and open that up. I'm going to close this one just because I already have one created. And so you can see that all 3 of these here add labels to a message, okay? So for the client one, it's going to go ahead and add the client's label, as you can see here. So to set this up, of course, you're going to add your Gmail account and make sure it's connected. The resource is going to be message. The operation, you're adding a label to the email. And then for the message ID, it's going to be json.id. Now, if this does not show up in your schema input, like it's not showing up right now, it should be under text classifier, as you can see up here. But because this node hasn't triggered yet, we're not going to have that available. So there's 2 ways to fix this. You can either type in this message right here into the message ID, or you can wait until your input schema is activated, and then the ID is going to show up right under here for text classifier. And I'll go ahead and show you this because this automation, if I run it real quick, my newest email is one for a meeting message. And so if I open this one up, you will see under text classifier that the ID is right here. And so you would just drag and drop it right here. Either method works, they're both going to work the same, so it's up to you. Now that's it for the client message node. You're just going to do the exact same thing to all 3 of these different add label nodes. Just make sure that each one is optimized correctly for the label. And so that's just going to be down here where it says label names or IDs. Go ahead and search for the label that you created and then select it. So this one is client, and then this one is obviously going to be lead, and then this last one is going to be meeting. And so you might say, how do we create these labels? It's super simple. So if you just go to your Gmail account, you're going to see an option for labels. And you're just going to click the plus button, and you can go ahead and create a new label. And n8n, if your Gmail account is connected to it, is automatically going to identify that new label you created, and it's going to show up right here where you're finding the correct one. And so as you can see in my Gmail, I created the labels for clients, lead, and meeting, and so that's why they're all showing up right here. All right, so that is the first step in these automations. It's just adding a label to each one. So starting off with the client automation, once it adds that client label to the email, we go ahead and use a message model node to create a draft email in response to a client message. And so in my email, I just sent myself a message. I'm pretending to be a client. Hey Carson, do you know when our video editing project will be completed? And so I'm going to go ahead and run this automation to make sure that it's working correctly and to show you exactly what this client automation is going to create. So if I press execute workflow, it should go ahead and identify that it is a client message, which it did. And then it went ahead and drafted an email for me, which I can view over here. You now see drafts. I have one created. And if I open this up, and it said, "Hi, thank you for reaching out. The video editing project is currently on track and is expected to be completed by the end of this week. I will keep you updated if there are any changes to the timeline. Best regards, Carson." And so obviously if the timeline is different, I can go ahead and change that. But this will just help me from thinking about exactly what to respond with and can save me a couple minutes here and there. And if you're getting, let's say, 20 client messages a day, that really does add up. And also, this is a very basic email. If you have a client asking you a whole list of questions or requests, this can save you a lot more time. So that's how this client automation works. And now, how exactly does it do this? Well, in this message model, we go ahead and connect it to our OpenAI account, pretty simple. And then we make sure that the resource is text and that the operation is message a model. And for the model, I'm just using 4.1 mini. Now, the prompt is basically what you're telling this chat model to do for you. And so you do need to make sure that it's specific and that you feed it all the right info in order for it to work correctly. So because we're using a variable in this prompt, make sure that it's set on expression and not fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the prompt. It just says you are an assistant and your job is to respond to received emails that are from clients. Respond to these emails as accurate as you can. This is the email you are responding to. And to add this variable here, it's going to be located here on the left under Gmail trigger. And then you're going to choose the one that says snippet. Just go ahead and drag and drop it. And then it's going to be added to that prompt. And then I say you need to output the following parameters, subject and message. Because when it created this draft email, you can see that it did create a subject and a message. So once again, you can customize whatever you'd like in this automation, including this prompt. So if you wanted to do something else for you, or if you want to add different variables into the prompt, you can go ahead and do so. So feel free to customize this prompt for the workflow to do exactly what you want, but just make sure that you do have the parameters of subject and message, because this is how it's going to create that draft email for you. And for the two parameters, which is subject and message, you're just telling the chat model what it needs to output. And you'll see that if I go back here, on the right where it says output, you can see that it has subject and message. And these are the two parameters that we ask the chat model to create. Now down here, this is very important. Make sure that you have output content as JSON on, because that makes sure that the two parameters that we are asking for are outputted. And you once again can see that here where it says subject and message. So that's it for the message model node. The next step is we're going to draft this message. And to do that, we do add a Gmail node. And this one is going to be down here where it says create a draft. Now, once you do that, you're just going to go ahead and connect your Gmail account. The resource is going to be a draft because we don't want it to send this email without us sending it ourselves. The operation is going to be create. And for the subject and message, these are the two parameters that we ask the chat model to output. And so you'll see here on the left, the subject and message. Just go ahead and drag and drop both of these into the right boxes and you'll be set. And then just make sure that the email type is text. So the last step of this client automation is that it's going to go ahead and send us a Telegram alert of when this is completed. And so if I open up this, basically I just connected my Telegram account. I set the resource as message and the operation is send message because it's going to send me a notification when this happens. For the chat ID, this is going to be different for everybody and is unique to your own Telegram account. You can look up a tutorial online to see exactly how you can do this. Now for the text, this is going to be the message you received on Telegram. And so mine is very simple. It says urgent email from, and then I add who it's from. And to get this variable, just go here on the left where it says Gmail trigger, scroll down, and you'll see from right here. And you can go ahead and drag and drop that over here. And then it says, I have created a draft email for you with the subject. And then we inputted the variable for the subject that the chat model created. And that can be found over here on the left side, right under from. It's just going to be the subject variable, and you go ahead and drag and drop it. And you will see in Telegram that I did receive a notification for that email I sent myself earlier on in the video. And it says exactly what I wanted it to. Urgent message from Carson Crockett. I have created a draft email for you with the subject video editing project completion timeline. And that's it for the client automation. This one's the most complicated out of the three. But like I said, if you do receive a lot of emails, it can save you a lot of time. Now this next automation for the lead is very simple. It goes ahead and adds that label as a lead to the email as we already talked about. And then it's just going to send me a Telegram alert that I have a new lead. And it says this lead is from, and once again, if I go to Gmail trigger, scroll down, I can see that from variable here. It's the same one that we used in that last Telegram node. So I'm going to go ahead and send myself an email acting as a new lead, and I'll show you exactly how this automation works. So I just sent an email to myself. If I go to my inbox, you'll see it says business request. "Hey Carson, I saw your website and was interested if you are taking on new clients for your AI automations business." And so if I go back to n8n and I execute this workflow, you will see that it's going to go ahead and go through the lead automation and it's going to send me that Telegram message. And if I go to Telegram, you will see it says you have a new lead. The lead is Carson Crockett and this is the email. And that's it for the lead automation. Super simple, but it can be very effective because you can get back to new leads very fast. And then lastly, we have an automation for meetings. And so this is going to be similar to the client message meeting, but instead of creating an email draft for me, it's just going to send me a summary of what the meeting is about. So we add the label in this node as meeting to the email, and then we use a message model node like we did up here for the client message draft. If I open it up, everything's the same up here. The only thing that's different is the prompt. So if I open up the prompt, I say, "You are an assistant and your job is to summarize emails for me that are about meeting requests. Summarize these emails as accurate as you can. This is the email you are responding to." And to get this variable right here, just open up Gmail trigger and then drag this snippet variable into the prompt. And then because I want a parameter to be outputted, I just say you need to output the following parameters, summary. And summary is what we're going to use in the next node when we get sent the summary on Telegram. So if I close out of this node and go to the Telegram node, you will see that the operation is once again going to be send message. And for the text, it just says you have a new meeting request. The meeting request is from, and then once again, you're going to add that from variable. And then I say this is the meeting request. And this summary variable is what I just showed you in the last node, which is what I wanted the chat model to output. So I'll show you real quick how to set up this variable because it's not showing right now because this node has not been executed. So I just sent myself an email asking if I can have a meeting on Monday. You will see this email right here. And so if I go ahead and execute this entire workflow, you'll see that it'll add that meeting label to the email, and then it's going to go ahead and create that summary. And to show you that summary, I'm going to open up the Telegram node again. And on the left, on the schema input, you will see this variable called summary, and it says request for a call with Carson on Monday at 10 a.m. And that is the variable that we set right here in the text. And if I open Telegram, you will see that I received the notification. You have a new meeting request. The meeting request is from Carson Crockett. This is the meeting request for a call with Carson on Monday at 10 a.m. And so it's just going to let me know that I don't miss any of these meeting messages. And this also makes sure that I respond to the person quickly. So basically, these two automations that I created for lead and meeting are more just to make sure that I get back to people quickly and to make sure I don't miss any emails, while this client message automation is more for saving me time. So this is the automation for an inbox assistant. I really enjoyed making this. It only took me around 15 minutes to create, so it should be pretty simple for beginners to create as well. And once again, there's so many possibilities you can do with this. I just created a simple one to make sure that this tutorial was easy to follow, but feel free to add more labels or automations to it to make it work better for either you or a business owner that you are selling this automation to. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe because I'm putting out weekly videos of new automations that you can create for yourself or sell to businesses. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.